each part of the software. And so a little bit about me. I went to UC Davis, proud Aggie. As mentioned, I also work at Accenture. I started there in December 2018. I'm based here in Sacramento. I'm also an analytics champion selected by SalesForce, and so what that means is I'm essentially an ambassador of the Einstein Analytics product, given my expertise. And then I also have added my Twitter handle for anyone that wants to follow me for any Einstein Analytics news or updates. I tend to post blogs and things like that. And one fun fact about me is I've been to over 20 countries. And so one explanation I want to start off with is that usually Einstein just gets thrown around in the SalesForce speak, and so I want to differentiate between the two products. And so when people are talking about Einstein, it's usually two products. It's either Einstein Analytics or Einstein Discovery. And as Brian mentioned, Einstein Analytics is like the BI tool, and Einstein Discovery is more of your predictive insights that allows you to develop machine learning models and create stories to understand, why everything's happening, predict things, and things like that. And just to give everyone a bit of history, so Salesforce acquired the BI and analytics startup EdgeSpring, and EdgeSpring is the one that's developed the technology for Einstein Analytics. In 2014, Salesforce branded Einstein Analytics as Wave Analytics. So before it was called Einstein Analytics, it was called Wave. And this was released at Dreamforce, and Dreamforce is Salesforce's annual conference. In 2017, Wave became Salesforce Einstein Analytics, and in 2019, the Tableau acquisition happened. And so, before I continue to dive into Einstein Analytics, I also want to dive into like the three types of analytics. And so, we had our traditional BI, which is very stagnant. We also have visualization analytics, which is more, it's more for like the few people that know the tool, so you can only get your insights based off of like people doing more reports. And now we're at the intelligent experience where we have Einstein Analytics, where anyone can be using the tool and create reports of their own. And it's more mobile friendly, and as well as in the cloud. And so how does Einstein Analytics work? Basically, it's nailed down into three concepts. So we have our data, we gather our insights, and that leads into action. And so we can connect any data, whether that be Salesforce data or external data, to create a data set. And from that data set, we can explore, visualize, and create charts and lenses. And then from there, we can share our story and create action based off of the insights that we've extracted. And so these are the different layers of Einstein Analytics, which I'll be covering. And so I'll go into the data, which is building out the data sets, the data flows, recipes, and connecting data. There's also the design, which is involving the apps, the lenses and queries, and dashboards. And I'll also get into the Salesforce programming language, which is JSON and SACL, and also XML. And so when it comes to building up a data set, you can create a simple a CSV upload, but then also you can use a tool to be able to basically label your data and determine whether or not if it's a dimension or a measure, and that's called a recipe. But Einstein Analytics, so in order to be able to use the tool, you have to create your data set first, and I'll get into the other tools that are being used. But what this screen shows is basically a simple CSV upload, and Einstein creates your data set. And with the data set, there's also a language called XMD, which is extended metadata. And so with that, you're able to choose different record actions. So when you're scrolling through your data, whether that's like a table or a chart, you're able to add different actions such as like log a call, make a chatter post, which is SalesForce's like communication tool, create a new case, different types of things, and then also format the measure. So if you're creating a measure that's a percentage and not a number, you're able to modify that as well. And so the next layer I'm going to go through is the data flow. And the data flow, this is the ETL side of Einstein Analytics. And so through the data flow, this is where we're able to basically create instructions on which objects we're going to join to create our data set. And so what I have laid out on the screenshot is basically we're bringing in our accounts and our opportunities. We can join them together. And then we're also doing some transformations, whether we're doing like adding new fields or filtering data. We can all do that in the data flow. And then with the data flow, once you run it, these sets of instructions, you're able to choose when you're running it. And so you can run it, at 6 a.m. every day. Basically, this is your way to refresh your data. And with the data flow, you're also able to edit the source code, which the source code is JSON. And I was mentioning the data flow definition files in JSON, and this contains like all the different logic. And so usually when you're going to get into the JSON, it's because you want to make some sort of clone or make some sort of complex adjustments which you can't do during the UI. And then another more user-friendly way of building out the data set is what's called the recipe. And so with the recipe, you're able to see each column, change whether or not it's a dimension or measure. And then Einstein, with its predictive capabilities, you're able to determine and get suggestions on whether you want to, change the lowercase of the string, make it uppercase, add different modifications that Einstein thinks that you should make to each column of your data. And so as part of you can connect any data source. With Einstein Analytics, there's some pre-built connectors. And so we can connect to AWS, different Sales Cloud products, MySQL, SAP, Snowflake, Oracle, Google Analytics. There's a bunch of connectors that are pre-built that's going to allow you to seamlessly integrate. And now into the design layer. And so in Einstein Analytics, each chart that you build is called a lens. But now with the Winter 20 update, those are being called queries. And so with the chart here, you're able to basically create a bar chart or any sort of chart, change the bar length, set the bars, see what data you're grouping by, change the bar segments, and even change the query length as well. And with Einstein Analytics, you get access to a wide array of charts. I added some samples here, but one unique item is the funnel charts and tree map charts, but you can get really creative really easily with this. And then in the design layer as well, with Einstein Analytics, there's a proprietary language called SalesForce Analytics Query Language, SAQL. It's different than SQL, so you're able to create your queries here, and it's based off of input streams. And so with that, if you have a really complex query that's not be able to be done in the UI, then that's when you get into SAQL. And then also with apps, you can think of this as folders for your dashboards. And so in an app, it can contain dashboards, lenses, which are different charts, and data sets. And then this is just a sample of the dashboard here, which hopefully I'll have time to show a demo. And as well, in the dashboard, you're also using JSON to edit any of the source code that you need. So with SalesForce, there's a big push for clicks on code. And so typically, if you're going to be using JSON, it's for a really complex use case. One thing is like a binding, and what a binding is when you're working through the widgets and you want to be able to change dynamically a grouping on a chart. And so say if you have a line chart that is grouped by fiscal quarter, what you can do with the binding is you can change that grouping to from fiscal quarter to year, a week, month, and so forth. And now I'll get into a demo. And so right here, what I have looks like I might need to log in.
I know that page too.
And so just like in the screenshot, we have our regional sales dashboard here. Right now, it's toggled to see the world, but there's also options to see the Americas, Europe, Asia, Africa. And it's giving me my total sales numbers for each country. And there's also a table here to show my opportunities. And so if we're clicking into each toggle, that's what's called a binding. And so if I click into Europe, that's going to zoom in into Europe, and I can see the sales for Europe. And once I toggle that, that also updates the table as well as my sales numbers here. And I can also drill down into the charts. So if I click into Norway, this also updates my values table here to show Norway and its total sales. And then another cool thing about Einstein is you can do conversational queries. And so if I want to see something, I can just type it in. And so some of the suggested queries is show me amounts by country. And it creates a chart for me right here. And with that, I can share it, save it as a lens, explore it. And once you save it as a lens, that's when I can add it to my dashboard as well. And so with that, I want to add learning sources for everyone that wants to learn Einstein Analytics. And so SalesForce has its own learning website called Trailhead. And right there, you can learn different modules, whether that be Einstein Analytics or other SalesForce products. Trailhead's available for you. There's also a YouTube channel called Let's Play SalesForce by Peter Lyons, and he's an analytics champion as well, and he has several years of experience with Einstein Analytics, even since it's been called Wave. And then also SalesForceBlogger.com has some great blogs on Einstein Analytics. And there's also a website for Einstein Analytics Learning, which is called Einstein Analytics Learning Map. It's by SalesForce and lays out basically your journey on how to become an expert. And with that, I leave it up for questions.
So is this available in just Sales Cloud, or is it available in Marketing Cloud for SalesForce?
So it's available for all clouds. So for Einstein Analytics, you're able to bring in data from whichever cloud is needed.
And is this something that you can connect the data source and then start building dashboards right away, or is there a setup process that you need to do, like with all those data layers?
Yeah. So when you're trying to bring in data, you have to build up the data set. And in order to build the data set, that's when you're using a data flow. And so the data flow is basically a set of instructions that you're doing. So that's when you're doing your joins, your computer expressions, which is like formulas, and also registering the data set. And that's when you're basically setting the final instructions. And so all that's built out through the data flow, and you're also building out the connections in that layer.
The Let's Play SalesForce YouTube channel, is that where I could find, what's his name again?
Peter?
Peter, is that where I find Peter's like
Yeah.
Stackle comments when I have problems with Stackle
Mhm.
and everything? Okay.
Yeah.
Because he had mentioned that he had a blog or something, so I was expecting a blog, but it's a channel also? I
Yeah,
guess?
it's the YouTube channel.
Okay.
I seen the slide about the app. Is the app via Einstein and like is it?
So
Yeah,
are you talking about this?
Yeah. So is people design.
So an app in Einstein Analytics, it's a folder. So the folder basically contains like all of your relevant data sets, dashboards, and lenses, which are charts. Specific to like whether that be a team, a specific use case. Like, so, I know it's hard to see the names here, but there's like one called analytics for the C-level, C-suite. There's also like the world map I was showing, different use cases like that.
How does it compare to Arcturus, or is it completely unrelated? Did I mispronounce that?
I'm not as familiar with Alteryx, but they are comparable tools, but with the benefit of Einstein Analytics is that it's native to SalesForce. So you don't ever have to leave SalesForce, but you're also able to include external data as well as your SalesForce data.
What's your prediction on what they're going to do with Einstein and Tableau?
That's a good one. SalesForce hasn't really been, set in stone on their direction that they're going to go, but maybe eventually they'll merge. But so far, I think there's pretty good investment in Einstein Analytics, and I think they're still going to continue to develop it as an independent tool.
So if you build out like a data flow, and you get data in a format that you want that's transformed, is there any way to export it from Einstein? If you wanted to use a different tool?
Yeah, so once you build out your data flow, you basically take it into Einstein Analytics, and you can download it as a CSV or XLS format. And then there's also different APIs that you can work with to connect to or export that data as well.
So there's integrations out of
Yeah.
Einstein too. Okay.
So is it just like is it just an application to build we call visualize data? Is that what it is? And you use the JSON as a query language to constrain the amount of the data that's coming in? Is that what it is?
So with the JSON, basically that's like the instructions for the data flow. But JSON is also used on the dashboard level to basically give instructions to the dashboard as well. So it's a BI tool to be able to basically visualize your data, but then also you can create different actions with that data.
Why do you recommend Einstein over something like Tableau?
When it comes to like the native Salesforce, Einstein Analytics is like the best tool. And then also like from a personal level, I think Einstein Analytics, if you're like a data newbie or wanted to get into the analytics field, I think Einstein Analytics is like a great stepping stone towards it, and it's like also really easy to use. I know right now it's like complex like terms, because I know Salesforce has its like own like terminology for like even a chart. I think it's like a really great tool to learn to continue to get into the analytics field.
I personally think that I'm in the certification training right now for Einstein Analytics. And as I've been learning more and more about how to use the tool, I find it easier than Tableau, easier than Power BI, which is a Microsoft product. I find it easier than a lot of them. So, and easier than Click especially.
Okay.
So, I don't know if that means anything, but yeah, it's just amazing to me how user friendly it is.
Okay.
And if there's, I can ask more questions, but also have 2 Einsteins to wrap. I have a couple quiz questions if anyone wants to answer. So what was Einstein Analytics called before? And I'll take hands.
Wave?
With another question. What was the name of the startup that was acquired that eventually became Einstein Analytics?
Hands up, guys.
No, that's what Einstein is.
Was it BI? Yeah.
It's easier.
I can ask another question.
Is it a dream for us?
No, it was called and so there's 2 ways to do ETL on Einstein Analytics. What are those 2 ways that you can do ETL?
That's what I'm talking about.
Try. One is the data flow tool.
Yeah.
The other one is maybe integrations from other database systems.
No. You were close, half right.
Oh, wait, I think I have an example right now. Either use a data flow or a recipe.
Yes. I'm trying to think of the other question. Well, what's the name of the custom language that SalesForce uses to create queries? Take one in the middle.
Is it Sacil?
And what does it stand for?
I don't know.
I like the letter. Like how to spell them.
Oh, but I mean, how's the acronym spelled?
Yeah.
It's Sierra Alpha, Quebec.